What's going on, guys? Welcome back, man. If you're on this video, you're trying to figure out how do you get your first 50 customers. So I made another video about how to make $1,000, pretty much starting selling anything. I made another video about how to get your first 100 sales. This is more about how to get your first 50 customers without paid ads. This is not going to be about pop-ups. I have done other videos, and those videos were about pop-ups. This is going to be more so about how to get the person-to-person customer sales and different things like that. So that's not something you're interested in. You don't have to stay. I appreciate you for clicking anyways. But I'm going to tell you about how it works for me, how I kind of get my sales, and the things that I kind of do as a candle maker. I'm Ahmad. My name is Ahmad Smith, as I am Candle Co. founder, CEO, all of that. You know what I'm saying? I've been making candles now about 6 years, five years. And these are just some tips and things that I've learned as a beginning candle maker and as a small business owner. So let's get into it. So if you want to get your first 50 sales, here are some ways that I do it. So this is more, like I said, this is more like a person-to-person method. And this is where kind of leaning on your inner circle does help. You know what I mean? For me, when I first started out candle making, and I've talked about this before, I believe, I started with the people around me. I think this helps when you have a product that people around you actually kind of are interested in. And this is for a person who's saying, hey, I want to make a business, but I'm looking at what people around me like. You know what I mean? Like, so if you're a person that you kind of are crafty, you make craft things, or you want to make health juices, or you want to make clothing, or you want to make candles, or any products like that where it's like people around me actually would want or benefit from, I think this video is for you. So let's get into it. So like I was saying, the first thing about getting, when I first started making candles, um, it was all a person to person thing. So I started with friends, family, and then I kind of built out. And this is important because a lot of times people say, well, your family's not going to support you, your friends are not going to support you. And sometimes that's wrong. Sometimes they can be your biggest supporters. So I'm going to talk about in another video about having the impact of, a small community and different things like that. But getting your first 50 customers. So it's a person to person thing. So one way that you can kind of do it is, and I didn't necessarily do this with candles, but I've done this with business ideas that I had before, is you're having people refer things for you. So one thing I would do is you can get a percentage off if you know what I'm saying, if you get this many sales, you can get a percentage off if you get this many people. I think the most important thing is you're building an army of people who like what you have. So with candles, for example, I made my candles as good as I could possibly make them. You know what I mean? And then people around me that actually like me and, family, friends that support me, they would always buy my candles. So, for example, if I have, let's say, um, 20 people, let's say 20 people that every time I make candles, they buy a candle. So you're talking about 20 times what? Let's 30 for easy math, that's $600 right there. You know what I mean? Every time I drop a candle, they do it. If I'm doing multiple candles or multiple scents, then that's reoccurring revenue. You know what I mean? And these are for people who aren't necessarily, you might not be trying to have a big business. You might want more of a side hustle or like a passion project. I think this video is more so for you. So getting your first 50 customers, it's not really, I'm not gonna say it's not hard, but it can be very simple. It's leaning on the people around you, like I stated before. Another way is like you're referring people, you know what I mean? They can get a percentage. Another thing, like I said, is making your product as good as you can, because sometimes the biggest thing and the biggest blessing is people speaking on your behalf. Word of mouth is so powerful. I think it's so underrated how important word of mouth is. I think even though I post on social media and YouTube and things like that, and that does bring me some sales, my biggest selling factor is people talking about how good my stuff is to other people. Here's a quick story. So at my last job, I was a manager at a restaurant lounge. I talked about this before. I'll talk about it again. But my staff, they didn't always know that I made candles. My boss man knew that I made candles because I've been making candles for years. He was a friend and stuff like that. So he knew that I made candles. And so he'll tell people like, oh, well, Ma, I made candles. And then so it kind of started like that. And then people actually see me make candles. They see me bringing candles. And then not only did this person get a candle, but now this person got a candle, this person got a candle, this person got a candle, this person got a candle. And so I had 30 employees. And so at one point in time, they're buying 1, 2, 3 candles, you know what I'm saying, a piece. And, another thing, like I said, even with the person to person thing, is you show people love. So because this person, show love, I show love to them. You know what I mean? You don't pay full price. You pay a discounted price because you're, your family and friends. And this is how you kind of get customers in the door. And so that's what I would do. I would have, them, they're like your spokesperson. They tell you how good your product is. So at one point in time, I had a server. She came up. It's like, I was doing a pop up somewhere and at work, and she came to me and she was like, came to them and she was like, "Hey, you guys need to like buy these candles. They are so good and they last a long time." And she wasn't just saying that because she liked me, because we didn't always, see eye to eye. But she was telling them that because she actually enjoyed the experience that she had from my candles. And so I say all that to say is that the experience that you give your customers, that's going to be the most important thing. When people are referring you, especially in your workplace, you can start in your workplace, in your immediate community, when they're referring you or they're talking about it to your, colleagues or your peers and different things like that, and they're telling them how good your stuff is, that makes people want to buy. For me, like I said, I could have been, "Hey, I make candles, I make candles, I make candles," and you can do that, and you might be able to sell a lot quicker, a lot faster. But I didn't have to convince people, because people convinced them for me. Does that make sense? What I'm saying? So sometimes, when you're selling your first 50 candles, it's gonna be, or your first 50 product, it's probably gonna be to your immediate community. It's gonna be to your friends. It's going to be to your family. Do not sleep on your workplace. I know, sometimes we go to work, we're not there to make friends, we're there to work and make our money and go home. But sometimes just having a relationship with somebody who talks a lot, just like bad news travel fast, good news can travel fast. You know what I mean? If you're with somebody who does talk a lot, and they say things, they'll tell, "Oh, Brandy does this or Brandy does that." And now you're making money, hand over fist sometimes, because the people want what you need. And that can be for your clothing brand. That could be for candle making. That could be for crafts. That can be for if you sell healthy juices, if you sell plates, if you sell whatever it is that you're starting out in. Your community is going to be the biggest thing that you need. You know what I mean? And this is how you get your first 50 sales. I hope I'm not rambling too much. I wanted to try to make this, clear and succinct, but my mind is kind of going all over the place. I got so many things going on in my mind. But this is how you get your first 50 customers, man. It's talking to the people around you and then letting them speak on your behalf. If you have a good product, and if you have things people actually want, which, to be honest, I'm gonna say it's kind of hard not to find things people want unless it's something just so abstract, because people spend money on things all the time. So why wouldn't they spend money on your stuff? You know what I mean? Like, if I make candles, which I do, and my candles are better than the stuff that they buy in the store, and I can give it to them at a reasonable price, why would they not want to support me? Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, I can just come to you instead of going over there, because one, you are my family, you are my friend, I do love you, I support you, and you actually put out good stuff. I think sometimes people are frustrated because they're like, "Well, they don't support my stuff and they don't do this." Sometimes your stuff just isn't that good right now. You know what I mean? And that's the truth. It's just not good. And that's okay. You can improve on those things, but then once you improve it and then you kind of get a price point that's sufficient for the people around you, then you can start like almost like printing money, because I'm gonna come to them instead of going to Bath and Body Works, because even though Bath and Body Works is good, I know his stuff is good. I know who makes it. I know where it comes from, and he loves me and he gives me a good price. Like, you know what I'm saying? So, and then taking care of those people around you that speak on your behalf. So like my family and friends, they always get a discounted price. They're always gonna get a discounted price because they are my starting supporters, and they tell people all the time, or they buy all the time, and they buy reoccurring. So this is how you can get your first 50 customers. It's just talking to the people around you. It's being in your immediate circle and giving them something that you want and giving them a good product. You know what I mean? And not overtaxing them or overpricing them because they're your family and friends. Sometimes you got to show a little love to get a little love. Sometimes you got to work things out. Even people that you work with or whatever, everybody didn't always pay the same price. And sometimes people, they'll pay, I know people say, well, if their family and friends, they not gonna want a discount. And yes, I understand that too. But sometimes if they are your first customer, show love. But then sometimes if people want to support you, they will pay full price for what it is that you believe in, because they believe in it too. So I don't want to make this video too long. That is how you get your first 50 customers. Start where you are, especially if you're a craft business or you're a small business and stuff like that. Start there and build outward. If you have any questions or comments, or if you made it to the end of this video, drop a thumbs up in the chat. Till next time.